Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 365 of the Embodied Podcast. Today we have Ericka Hines with us. Ericka is someone that I have been wanting to connect with more closely for years now. Some of her close colleagues, Jessica Fish, who's a dear friend of mine, and Desiree Attaway, have both been on the podcast before. And finally, we're getting Ericka up in here. Ericka is an advisor and strategist who works with organizations to align their commitment to inclusion and equity with their everyday actions and operations. She has worked with government agencies, nonprofits, and foundations across the country to help their staff and stakeholders learn how to create inclusive culture. And to date, she has trained over 3,500 individuals and skills that will help them be more equitable leaders for their teams and organizations. She also has this incredible body of research going on right now, and we talked about that. We got into all kinds of things about facilitation and, everything under the hood of this topic, and I'm really excited. So this is episode number 365. You can find links to everything that we mentioned in the episode in the show notes at untameyourself.com/365. And just a reminder, I know some of you listen to the podcast, but we also post these episodes on YouTube, and my YouTube channel is youtube.com/Elizabeth Dialto. And we upload transcripts for the episodes, so they are closed captions on the YouTube videos if you need captions. And as well, the transcripts are on the show notes page as well. So if we mention something and you're like, what was that? I can't remember, or you want to pull a quote that you really liked, go to the show notes page. The entire transcript is embedded at the bottom of that page at untameyourself.com/365. Okay, let's get into the show.
Ericka, yay, you're here.
I'm here. I'm so excited. I'm excited for our conversation.
I've been wanting to meet you virtually or not for so many years now. I feel like I've been following you on the interwebs forever.
Thank you. I always feel it just feels very strange and lovely. It is very lovely when people say things like that. But I'm also like, I'm just here. You can meet me anytime.
I know. I know that feeling. Well, and I feel like I know you vicariously because Jessica Fish is one of my dearest friends. And I just hear so much about what you guys often work on together, what's going on with your research and stuff like that. Or I'll get a text that's like, hey, could you share this? And I'm like, yes, we'll put it everywhere. So I'm excited to dive in. Before we do, though, my opening question for people this season is, how is your heart?
The word that comes to mind is fractured. I think fractured meaning when I sort of even think of how, in what ways is it fractured, I sort of start assigning it numbers. And so it's like my heart is in pain. There's a certain part of my heart that's in pain. There's a certain part of my heart that's optimistic. And there's a certain part of my heart that is angry. Yeah, so my heart is fractured, but it's I don't know. I think it's been that way for since March of last year.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels normal at this point to walk around being a bit fractured.
And for anyone listening, this interview is going up in the fall of 2021. So March of last year would be 2020 because people will be listening to this probably years from now sometimes.
Yes, yes.
All right. I love this because you just brought up one of my favorite things to remind people constantly. There's drums that I'm always banging on, and this is one of them. We can hold many things at once.
Right? Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I notice out in the wild and especially on social media, how sometimes people want to be upset that certain people are not feeling certain things or not expressing or not saying everything all at once. And it's like, no, just because I feel this way doesn't mean I don't feel 42 other things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up because I think that is especially true around social justice work, which is very heavily woven into my overall work. But that people think that you can only operate in anger in terms of doing work around social justice and social change, when in fact that's actually not healthy.
Right.
You know this better than I do. And so, yeah, it to me, I think it's like, it only makes sense that you're going to hold like a certain, you're going to have anger at society. You're going to have joy for your family. You're going to have excitement for whatever. And like, it's just a part of being human, like to hold multiple emotions at one time. I like to say of it as we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, literally on all the levels. So how do you navigate when you have to show up for something and like the dominant thing you're feeling is actually not going to be conducive or helpful to what you need to do?
It depends on whether it's a personal thing or if it's like a societal thing. If it's a personal thing, then I probably revert to compartmentalizing it, but very purposely compartmentalizing it, not sort of going like, oh, I can't feel you ever.
Yes.
More so like, I can't feel you for the next 2 hours. Like, I just need to.
Yes.
I like to think of it as putting it in a Tiffany's box. I don't own anything from Tiffany's, but like, that's always the box I think of. Like, okay, I'm going to put you in this like soft little pretty box, and then I need to put you here. And then I will let you can feel and come out later, but I need to put you there. And so that's one way. If it is like a societal thing, I will mention it and I'll place it in the middle of the room, because if it's true for me, it's true for other people. And so I think it's just important. I'll make it a point to sort of like honor that sort of societal emotional state.
Okay, I love this. First of all, I'm a big proponent of, I call it like mindful compartmentalization or intentional, right? Because people always throw that term around like it's a bad thing. And I'm like, no, it's literally like, I like your Tiffany's box thing because it feels like gentle and beautiful and treat with care, right? But I'm like, yeah, just put it on a shelf. You got to come back to it. But just pop it on a shelf and be like, I see you. I love you. We'll come back to this later. Like sometimes you have to do that with the people in your life. And you're like, we got to talk about this, but we just can't do it right now.
Right, exactly.
But we're not going to pretend it's different than stuffing, which I did for like the first 28 years of my life. And that is unhealthy. But then I appreciate what you said here. And I have another question, something that I don't know if I want to call it I'm sensitive to, but I have like inauthenticity is a big thing for me that let's call it a pet peeve for lack of a better term. And so performative anything is that, what do people say, really grinds my gears, which is to put it lightly. But what for you, and I can't imagine you do it. It's not even about can't imagine. I'm positive you don't do anything performatively. But how can someone tell the difference? When is it like I guess what I'm wanting to ask is, when is it appropriate, like what you said, to put something in a room because it feels like this is a societal thing? And when is it performative? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I really go back to intention. I guess I go back to intention and trust. So I'm just going to sort of play this out.
Please.
I think it is authentic when, I think whether we are remote or in person, if we really pay attention, we can still pick up on each other's energies. Right? So if someone is in those situations and they're like saying it because they know it's the thing to say, but it sounds like a very rote statement.
Yeah.
That's an indicator. I think that for me, one of the things that also that makes it that will make it performative. I think it is sensing the emotionalness in their voice. And I think that there's also there's intention. Like, I think part of it is like speaking with an I, right? So I think that there would be just someone speaking from their heart, as opposed to today's events are clearly harrowing for everyone, as though they're removed from everyone.
Right.
You know, I want to, I want to honor this, but it's like, hello, this horrible thing has happened. I'm sure it's like all on our hearts. Let's just take a moment to breathe. Like, these are sort of the things I would say is like, let's just take a moment, get ourselves into the room, like all of that. I think intention is there. And I think just the use of, I don't know, I statements is one of the big ones for me.
So which direction are you saying? I statements makes it more genuine and authentic, or makes it more performative?
I statements makes it more genuine, because if someone is using I, they're sort of saying like, this is on my heart. This is on, like, I'm, this is kind of hard for me. Or also, like, even though my community is not experiencing this particular loss, I can still feel in solidarity with other people. Like, it's like rooting it in something that you were genuinely feeling and speaking from that place of from, I know authenticity is overused, but speaking
it's
from
still
that
a
place,
word that means a thing, though.
Right, exactly. So it's like speaking from that place of authenticity, I think, is what's going to make it not be performative.
I love that. And I actually really love that beautiful way that you said this, which is, even though my community isn't affected by this, because I'm a big fan of anytime we could just acknowledge, a little bit of nuance, a little bit of complexity, or just give context to something, right? Like, because I do see a lot of people, and again, this is mostly online, but, wanting people to not have feelings about things that anyone with a heartbeat is probably going to have feelings about, or saying, we don't want to hear about your feelings, or your feelings don't matter. And again, as a person who does healing work, I'm like, oh, slippery slope. So here's something else, since we're talking about things that matter, another fun phrase, and then we're going to get into your work, but I love that this is kind of how things are starting out. So you use the word intention, and this isn't, again, another, just kind of like these rote things that people love to toss around. They're like, well, impact is more important than intention. And it's like, sometimes it's even as like, fuck your intentions. And I'm like, because intention does matter on a level. So especially in your like extensive experience, where do you see intention being like appropriate, applicable, important, not something to be dismissed?
So one, I would say that I used to be one of those people who was like, your intentions don't matter. You just have to deal with the impact. And then it was pointed out to me, and I can remember this, like the exact room that I was in, and what this person said to me. I can't remember exactly what they said to me, but they said something like, I can't go along with the fact that it's only my impact that matters. Like, I am a human being, and so my intention should be taken into account. And I was like, okay, that's fair. Like, and also when I think about it for myself, like, I do want people to consider my intentions. And so I think in reflecting on your question, one of the things that comes up for me is actually, and the way that I stated is, the actual thing is here that you need to accept both your intentions and the impact.
Yeah.
And you have to hold one of those. And I think we started with this, with like holding multiple things at once. Where we get messed up is when I am so upset because my intentions were only good, and I cannot accept that they had a negative impact.
Right.
Because I'm so wrapped up in me.
Yes.
That this negative thing and this hurtful thing, harmful thing that has happened, I'm unaware I can't take that in, and I certainly can't take responsibility for it because of the goldenness of my spirit. And I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah.
I say to folks now, like, what you have to do, what we're trying to get you to do, is both accept that you had good intent, and then when it transferred over to the other person, it had a harmful impact. And you get to hold responsibility for both of those things, if you care about being in relationship with them.
So this is an interesting something that I've also noticed and had an experience with this recently. What about when someone just straight up misunderstands? So it's like there's an impact, but there was also like a comprehension issue. Does that make sense? Because we can't, like, this is something, I'm a real communication nerd. And one thing is, there's so many factors, which you would know much better about this than I would, but like culturally, education, like, how someone's brain works. Like there's literally, whether English is someone's first language or whatever language is being communicated, what's the culture and the organization, or perhaps some vernacular or slang that some people might understand and other people might not. So this is something I'm always curious about too. And it's like, okay, but when someone straight up misunderstood something and it was like they were impacted by their misunderstanding, like something I've been exploring lately is there's a difference between that's not what I meant and that's not what I said. Where do you fall on this spectrum?
That is like my entire life in my household. Right? Yeah. So one of the things that has become clear to me that I am in a constant state of working on is understanding the meaning of what someone says. And I'm such a read the room person, and I'm such a reading in between the lines person that I will fill in all that subtext.
Yeah.
And then I trust my intuition, and my intuition plays out, and I'm generally kind of right about it. However, in those situations where like nuance is in at play, or like my nuance, like I'm just wrong, right? Yeah. Like I read the situation wrong. I didn't understand it. The tone was like stated one thing, but I took it personally to be myself, etc. I think it goes back to something that I think we forget that we have this tool, which is to say, what did you mean? Like you said this. I'm not sure I understand. What did you mean when you said that?
Yeah.
And I think that gives us a way to sort of to understand, like simply. Yeah. But then also it gives us another bite at the apple, if you will, of being able to respond in a way that is like that fits what's happening here.
Yes, I love this. So many people don't have the courage though, because they feel like they should have known. But how could you? Like, we're all so different, and especially again, I think about what happens on social media all the time, because I'm probably overly idealistic, optimistic, and hopeful sometimes. And I'm like, I believe we could find better ways to communicate on these limited platforms. And I will probably die on that hill. I have friends who are like, damn, you just go for it all the time. Don't you get tired? And I'm like, I really do. Because so many people aren't trying to do that. But it happens in real life too. It's almost like harder in real life when like your heart's pounding and you're like, oh, this is not going how I wanted it to go.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that what I just gave was like, you bring up the whole point of like, it's easier to do that when you don't have like the pounding heart and the emotionality around it.
Yes.
But I think in those places, what I've noticed is that I get flustered. And when I get flustered, it's kind of like I think I just have to do, and for me, like I'm just speaking of me, if something is affecting me, like I need to say like I'm flustered, like this conversation, like I feel flustered by this, like I can't talk about this right now because there's too much going on. And also being like, I think I'm getting annoyed and I don't really know why I'm getting annoyed. I think part of what happens in these situations is that we think we're really clear on why we're annoyed, but we don't really know why we're annoyed, right?
Yes.
Like maybe I'm annoyed by what you said. Maybe I'm annoyed by you. Maybe I'm annoyed because the moon is in a certain place and I'm on my period. Or like I just watched a really upsetting like commercial. Like,
Yeah.
we don't, we feel like we need to just like state we're annoyed and then be like, bleh, as opposed to just being like, okay, so yeah, I may be annoyed by this situation. But like, what is I'm sort of rambling here, but it's like,
no, it's good.
My response can be outsized to the situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, if I don't want to be in this sort of like, I'm going to this, then I need to take a step back and just say like, okay.
This feels like the relational version of the intentional or mindful compartmentalization that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, cool.
Kind of, right? Like being like, okay, I'm noticing this is really affecting me. I'm not going to have my best interaction like this. So maybe I need to come back to it later. Or this is something I do sometimes when I talk to customer service people and I'm like pissed. I will be like, listen, I know this isn't your fault. You don't make the rules. I am so angry right now. I'm not angry at you and we need to get through this. But if you could hear the tone of my voice, I just want you to know it's not about you, but I can't calm down.
I will do something like that too. I'll be like, I'm clearly very frustrated and I know that it is not about you, Tammy. Yeah. It is about the fact that I have done this 3 times and I've talked to 3 different people. And I just want I'm annoyed by this situation. Yeah. And I want someone, whether it's you, whoever it is, I want it solved.
It's like, I'm really trying not to rip off Tammy's head, but I cannot control.
But somebody's head is probably going to be ripped off. So if it's Eric's head, that's fine too. So hand me to Eric.
Sorry, Eric. Oh, sorry, I'm not sorry. So, okay, thank you so much. I love speaking with people who I know are facilitators because you just have the chops, you know, you have the experience and the range. I was looking on your website. I know you work with all different types of organizations and all different sizes and different groups of people. The makeups of the groups are different, the intentions, the businesses, the goals, the visions, like what you're working on. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you that kind of stuff and dive in a little once it came up, because you have a lot wider range of experience, I would imagine, to draw from than some people probably do.
Yes, it's funny. I'm just sort of thinking about that. Yes, I do have. I've been facilitating like professionally for 20 years. So I've been in a lot of facilitating situations. And yeah, I guess I do have the chops. It doesn't scare me to be in business wise many rooms. I'll be like, okay, so everyone's angry. All right, so let's just note that everyone is angry right now. Okay, like let's baseline.
Yeah.
And let's go from there. You know, I've been in that sort of situation to like, it feels like everybody's sort of checked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's stop here. So yeah, thank you.
Of course. So I did want to ask you, do you have, and I don't know, you might not want to answer this in case anyone's listening, you don't want to play favorites, but do you have a favorite type of organization or company or sector or whatever to work with?
Yeah, I mean, lifelong, like a lifelong sort of just, I'm not going to say it's a deal breaker because it has been broken at least once. I am very committed to social change. Very committed. Which is a whole other thing because it's the type of work that I do. People could probably say like, how committed is she? But like my background is in social change and in social justice. And so I really care about that. And so in terms of companies, if I were to say it's a favorite, it's companies that I can figure out that they also share that. So generally my background has been in nonprofits and philanthropies. So, you know, they have a very like distinguishable, understandable mission committed to change. But as I've done more work in the private sector, I think one of the like delineating factors has been for me, like, what is their commitment to social change, either through the work that they do, who they serve, how they, I mean, philanthropy is always a little bit questionable, how they give back or how they invest in community, I think I would say. And so it's very, I am discerning in that way. I will go and look before I say yes to them. I'll go and look and see what they've done. And it's, we all sort of do our due diligence, but one of my due diligence points is really around, do they have a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion? What have they done in community? I'll go and see, like, what's the gossip?
Yeah.
Has any of it been around racism or sexism? There's just one, or ageism, like,
Yeah.
Of course, all of the identities, but I tend to like, those are easier to find.
Yes.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, I was going to ask, but you kind of answered it within there. Like, what types of people do you say no to? But it sounds like people that don't check when you do your not little, but your due diligence. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, yeah. Those, it's very important to me that people come with some sort of commitment to doing this type of work. I often say to folks, like, oh, I am not in the business of helping your folks buy into doing the work that I do. I have no interest in that.
Right.
There are other people who will, meet them where they are in their land of, like, I'm colorblind and I don't see this. I'm sure that's great for your audio person.
For anyone listening, if you couldn't make out the sound, it was a raspberry.
There are like plenty of other people who are willing to help your organization figure out why this is important to what you do.
Yeah.
I'm not that person. You got to come with some level of commitment with me.
I love a good boundary, and that's great. I'm with you in that too. Just over the years, I've also noticed I typically won't work with people who were like just stepping on their healing or their spiritual path, because there's just a lot of exploration, which I think is worthwhile and amazing, but the 101 level. And again, this is not to be condescending to anybody, because, you had to go to kindergarten before you could go to 5th grade. And then you had to get through elementary school to get to high school. It's just, where are people in their stages of development? And it sounds like you're also articulating, there are also stages of commitment that have like, I always mispronounce this word, demonstrable. Did I leave out a syllable?
No, I think that's right.
Demonstrable. All right. Well, Pete, you know what I mean. People listening probably know what I mean. They've already done some work already, and they're into it. Yeah,
they're into it, and they may not know what to do next, or they may have tried something. I often describe it as, so it sounds like you've thrown spaghetti at the wall, and some of it's sticking and some of it hasn't, and I'm going to help you figure out how to make more of it stick.
Yes, it was great. So people listening, if you want to know the basics of what is DEI, diversity, equity, inclusivity, that is so easily looked up anywhere. So we're not going to waste Ericka's precious energy and intelligence and experience on that question. But I did want to pull apart, if you will, with me a little bit more about what inclusivity is, why it matters. And I'm actually curious, in the diversity, equity, inclusivity, in your opinion or experience, are they weighted at all? Is anything more important than another? Or does it depend on the organization? Or is it just like they're so intricately woven together you can't separate them? Or
so, like, I want to answer your question, but it's in a different way.
You do whatever you want.
Okay. So they're very interdependent. And so here's what I mean by that. Doing diversity work, focusing only on representation, is the basement level of what an organization can and should be doing. I will go as far as to say to them, and see, I'm starting to get worked up, you do not hang your hat on the fact that you have a diverse workforce. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Can
I curse? I just did.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm from Staten Island. We have explicit on everything.
Oh, good. So so that is important, but it's not enough. And inclusion and equity are harder to work on than diversity is. Because it's fine. I'm a Black woman. People watching this, you will see I'm a Black woman. It means nothing if your organization hires me if I walk into an environment where I don't feel like I'm included, where I can share an opinion, where people will talk to me, where I will actually get a promotion or have a career path. It won't matter. I will, like, it will be a door, those doors what are those doors that you walk in and you walk right back out? It'll be a revolving door.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will be a revolving door. So inclusion and diversity are very strongly tied together. And I won't do work that's one without the other.
Yeah.
Equity, very important. Equity is important because it's actually looking beyond your organization to trying to help with societal ills that may have manifested inside of your organization, right? It is, by its nature, a social justice lens. It has a social justice lens. It requires organizations to actually look at themselves in the context of the greater whole. So it's not just every level leadership can't be like, I'm equitable. Equitable compared to who?
Right.
Right. So it is tied to diversity and inclusion. But this is where I think you said the word grinds my gears.
Yes.
This is what grinds my gears is that organizations say like, well, we're really focused on equity. And they don't know what that means, number one. And two, they are unwilling to place themselves in any type of situation where there's a point of comparison on like, are you really trying to dismantle, heteronormativity? Are you really trying to dismantle pay inequity? Are you really trying to dismantle racism in society through how your organization operates? Like equity is a very high standard.
Yeah.
And it is worth doing. I mean, I wouldn't be here trying to work on it if it wasn't. But it's like, when I sort of said like diversity, not as hard as inclusion, equity, inclusion, not as hard as equity, but all important to do. I would say if an organization comes to me and they were like, well, I actually correct potential clients. They're like, oh, well, we really want to have diverse hiring. And I'll be like, actually, you can't do diverse hiring without building an inclusive organization. And, given everything that we know in society, you really should be focused on equity too. I do that before they hire me. And it's funny because people who know me would say that I do that as like a litmus test.
Yeah. To see how they're going to respond.
Yeah. To figure out how they're going to respond. And if they don't respond in the way that I want or think that they should, I'm like, I don't know.
And what's the appropriate response, Ericka?
Or are you asking me?
Just for fun.
I was like, the answer is yes. Yes, we will focus on all of those.
Curiosity. What is that? This piece that you said is so, I am astounded often by how many people don't know what things mean, but want to give you an answer about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why are people like that? Like, I have you've probably seen me share about this at some point in the many years we've been connected online, but I have like my little round of questions. People pitch us for the podcast all the time, or people want me to be an affiliate for their stuff or whatever. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, can you point me towards, where I can find on your website or whatever, like what you guys are doing? How are you involved in social justice education, or depending on the type of organization, like DEI or, anti-oppressive, like however I say it, how are you like social justice informed and trauma informed? And sometimes people respond with, well, and they give me a laundry list of things that have not like clearly indicate not only do they don't know what it means, they didn't even bother looking it up when they knew they didn't know what it meant. And then, but I appreciate when the people are like, well, what does that mean? And then I'm like, cool, well, that's also an answer. Because if you have to ask me what it means, you're certainly not doing it. But at least they asked,
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So wild. But the people who want to just be like, well, and then list off incorrect answers. I'm like, why are we like this?
Well, it's funny because I'll listen to them, one of the questions I ask is like, okay, give me, like in the last 12 months, tell me the work that you've done around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they'll start answering, and I've done this so long that I can start categorizing what they've done into like, is it adversity? Is that a strategy for diversity? Is that a strategy for inclusion? Strategy for equity? And then I'll in real time report back to them. I'll be writing them down. Like you'll see my note pages will like have all these little like little graphs and lists. And I'll be like, actually what you've just stated is like, seems like you've actually really been focused on XYZ.
Yeah.
As a way, and maybe it's also getting to the like, and I know you use this interchangeably like we do, and that's one of the problems.
Yes.
But in fact, that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
And most of them take that feedback pretty well.
Nice. Well, that's the litmus test too, right? Like that's what you want to see.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me more about, I love that it's called every level leadership.
Yeah.
Why did you decide on that? Why is this important? And I'm not asking why is it important? Like, why should we care? We know we should friggin' care. But like, why do we need to look at every level, not just like the highest levels or the middle levels or whatever?
Because I think everyone has the responsibility to be committed to being to practicing diversity, practicing inclusion, and practicing equity. So I don't really care what level you are. I believe, number one, that there is some part of everyone's job, no matter what level you are in a company, that you have some autonomy of decision making. And so what I really emphasize is that where you have the ability to practice being inclusive and equitable, you should do that. In your portfolio of responsibilities, where you can practice being inclusive and equitable and diverse, you should do that. And so that's one reason why I use every level leadership. I think also it is to plant the seed that everyone has the ability to lead on something, even if it's leading themselves. And that ties into the sort of connection of, I have self-autonomy, I have leadership, the ability to lead something, and I am committed to being inclusive and equitable and really trying to practice diversity in my life. It's sort of like, it's a nice little wraparound for all of those things.
And I mean, you've kind of said this, but I just want to make sure it comes like straight out, is, people can engage with this stuff at work, but if they're not engaging with it in their lives,
yeah,
it's just, this kind of goes back to the performative question that we were talking about earlier, right? Like it's the difference between like, okay, let me check this box in this place where if I don't, I'm going to get in trouble for it.
Yep.
Versus actually giving a shit.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, that's a really good point, because one of the things that I say is, and I call myself a DEI practitioner, that wording is very intentional, because I really do try to practice these words. Like, how am I learning about someone's like their identity? How am I learning about the fullness of someone's identity? And how am I decentering myself in that process? Yeah. That's truly what diversity is.
Yeah.
Okay. How am I having a representation of folks and being happy that they're all around me, right? How am I practicing having an environment in my personal life where people feel like they can show up as they are? Okay, most people. There are some people who are not invited to the party.
Yeah.
And then how am I trying to really make choices that promote equity for folks, not just myself, but other people. Am I going to pay you more because you're a woman of color? Where do I spend my money?
Yeah.
How am I spending my personal Ericka Hines dollars? So to go to your question, like, it is about being a DEI practitioner isn't, I mean, the depth of it is something that I have, right? Because I spend a lot of time learning about it, practicing it, exploring it, right? That's where the expertise, if you want to call it, comes in. But everyone can practice it. And that's why I say I'm a DEI practitioner, to like put the point, an extra fine point on the practice of it.
Yeah.
Quick break in the show, everybody, to let you know that applications are open for my 2022 Embodiment Specialist training. I am so excited about this training. It is like 7 or 8 years in the making. It is expanded beyond what was Wild Soul Movement teacher training since 2016. And this is really for anybody who feels the pull to graduate from doing basic level self-help, personal development, and spiritual work, and truly embody self-love, healing, and wholeness, so they can live soulful and soul-centered lives that contribute to collective healing and liberation, as well as people who are wanting to really integrate the light and the dark, who place a high value on kindness, generosity, integrity, humility, and reverence, who know that while we receive all kinds of gifts and talents and genius, we are the instruments, not the players. This is for people who want to prioritize embodying their divine nature in order to serve the human experience, as well for those who would like to incorporate embodiment work into their professional lives in some way, shape, or form, or just deepen their own practice. So if you want to learn more about the training, which starts in February 2022, head to untameyourself.com/specialist. There are some dates by which to apply if you need an extended payment plans. We have a couple different extended payment plans, and it's just going to be an incredible, alchemical, transformative experience. It's going to be a small, intimate group because I will also be mentoring and working with everyone one-on-one throughout the 13 months of the training. So again, really deep, really beautiful, really incredible experience. If you are interested, go to untameyourself.com/specialist, and I will be so excited to receive your application if you decide to submit one.
I love this. It's another one of those drums I'm banging until the day I die, is everything worth doing is a practice, right? There's not like some, the image that just popped into my mind was like the stands people stand on when they win their gold, silver, or bronze medal when they're at the Olympics, right? Like you're not going to arrive like, oh, well, I've completed the competition I've been training for, and now I've got my medal and I'm good to go. Like there's just like day in and day out, there's opportunities to practice.
Yep.
And
exactly.
The willingness to do that feels like a big piece.
And to mess up.
Right. You have a great, what is your thing? Fumble?
Be humble and ready to fumble.
Humble and ready to fumble. Can we talk about the humility needed? This is, I did a podcast. At the time of recording this, it was a couple of weeks. At the time it goes up, it'll be a couple months. I think for a lot of these things, the dismantling, the healing, trauma work, like the collective healing and liberation, all the little pieces of the puzzle that go into that. I think one of the most under talked about aspects to all of it is actually being humble.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, or else I wouldn't have been saying this for 10 years.
Right.
Yeah, I think there is a certain amount of peace in knowing that you can't show up to this, you can't show up to doing work around societal oppression knowing everything.
Literally, like it's not possible.
It's not possible. You also can't show up not thinking you're going to make a mistake. And this is where people I can say this every day, all day long, and people, I think, will not hear it when I say, guess what? You're going to fuck up. You are going to fuck up. You are going to misgender someone. You are going to say something that is somebody uses racist. You are going to be ageist. It's going to happen because of how deeply ingrained that we are trying to weed out is. The point is not to feel like when you make that mistake that you are going to die.
Right.
And that is what I mean, you please explain why people feel like if I make this mistake, I will die. I'm like, it is not the same. You're not going to die. In most cases, I can't say that 100%. Sometimes you might. But the humility is knowing like, okay, if I mess up, I can recover and I can show grace to myself and I can say I'm sorry to another person. And then I have the ability to change my behavior.
Totally.
And so if I show up in humility of knowing, not to say like, oh, you know what, I'm going to mess up, so I'm not even going to try. No, that's not the point.
No.
The point is to have humility about when somebody says you messed up, to be able to just accept that, feel it, and truly try to change your behavior and apologize first in a way that is meaningful and then change your behavior.
I want to come back to this you won't die thing for a second, right? Because is anyone likely physically going to die? Probably not. What's going to die? Their perception of themselves, parts of their ego, who they thought they were. Their high horse is going to die. Their metaphorical moral superiority, like that they've built their whole identity around being this kind of person and just not knowing things. I'm always astounded at how hard it is for people to admit they don't know things.
Yeah.
Or that they're like unsure or haven't experienced. Like when I first asked and you said there's a piece to it, actually the direction that you went in with peace is different than how I always think about the piece. To me, I'm always so relieved when I mess up and someone lets me know. So then I could be like, great, I never have to, one less thing I have to fuck up about because now I know. Thank God I could cross one thing off of the infinite list.
I think I'm trying to get to be more like you and like practicing that, but maybe because I have lifelong anxiety. Like I learned this term about like rehearsing things. Like I rehearse grief. I rehearse like I think part of my anxiety is like rehearsing conversations, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think that part of this like be humble and ready to fumble is like rehearsing in my mind, like, guess what? If something happens and somebody says something, your response, it's like it's retraining my mind to be like, your response is not like to have it take all the air out of you, but instead to be like, okay, I hear that. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I feel that puts me at peace because I know in that situation, not that it's necessarily that it's automatic, because trust me, I get up in my feelings too. It's that I make the choice.
Yeah.
And I'm able to recognize it and make the choice to say, no, I'm not going to go over here. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over here to the side of like, this is not about you, Ericka. Not everything is about you.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned earlier, like that you've been to therapy, like having done your own healing work is what even gives you the option of having that choice, right? Like when someone's really in a trauma response or when someone is just like, I call it like it's a reaction. When someone can only react, they can't respond, right? Because a response requires a pause and making some kind of choice. They can't, right? That's actually something I've discovered, especially in the last year, is a boundary for me on social media, or any other kind of conversation, really, not just social media. But it's like when I can tell people are in that reactive place, there's no good's going to come from that engagement. or when
Yes.
I'm in that place. And I'm bringing this up because I liked how you said, make a meaningful apology. You didn't just say make an apology, right? Because sometimes it's kind of like talking to the customer service person where I'm like, this isn't about you. Sometimes I'm like, listen, I know I need to apologize. I need to like chill for a moment, kind of see what I even need to apologize for.
Right.
Because there's two sides to that. I need to like orient around what I even did, but also I find in this age, and I'm curious what you see or sense or have experienced around this, often people are out here demanding apologies sometimes for things that aren't necessarily the thing that needs to be apologized for, right? I had an experience like this recently where someone was like, you need to apologize. And I'm like, okay, but I need to understand for what? Like, because I've had that too, where I just wanted to make it better and be like, I'm so sorry, but for what? And like, why are you saying sorry? Because someone demanded it? Because that's not a meaningful apology.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because what comes to mind to me is cancel culture, which is completely a hot topic.
Yeah.
And what I see around apologies is that, yes, we want people to apologize. I go back to like, there was this one slide I used a few years ago, and it was like, it was a card rack of apologies. And like the Hallmark cards, right? And so one of them was like, I apologize that you feel like I did something wrong. Or I apologize that your feelings are hurt. And so just sort of going back to what you said, in a way, it is about actually centering yourself, what you said there, which is like, okay, I need to understand what I'm apologizing for so that it is meaningful, so that I know what I'm apologizing not only for, but what I'm willing to correct.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting is like all of these are choice points, right? It's a choice for me to apologize to you, because sometimes I'll say like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I hurt you. I don't exactly know all the ways that I hurt you, and I'm willing to listen to you. Tell me. But it's like a choice point to kind of think through, or have somebody tell you and reflect on, like, why they're hurt and why they feel harm. And yes, that means that the other person has to be in touch with their harm. Like, there's so many, this goes back to like the whole nuance, what's said, what's not said, what relationship we're in. Do we want to continue to have a relationship? Because I want to be very clear, Elizabeth, I am a Scorpio, and there's a part of me that is search and destroy. Where all of this goes out the window. Like, like I am there to do harm. I am there to like be destructive. Less so in my personal relationships.
Yeah.
But I think it's also like in being humble to ready to fumble. Also, I need to tell you, like, there are times when I'm like, I am here because I'm pissed, and this is going to happen. But if I care about you, choice, then I'm going to try and play this through, right? I'm going to try and make the choices that I think are in alignment with how I care for you and what my values are.
Yeah. I love this. And because I think there's so much going on for all of us all the time now. Like, we're so inundated. I feel like part of modern society is going beyond any kind of regular capacity that any nervous system used to have, and being like, well,
oh my God,
we're all just holding so much more than anyone ever intended. Like, I've actually been wondering, and I have no way of proving any of this because I am not a scientist or a researcher. I am a mystic, so I have inklings about things. But if people are like, prove it, I'll be like, I can't. But I really feel like we probably are coming up to some kind of like evolution in the human nervous system, because it just kind of has to. Like something has to like jump, because we're just inundated with so much more. We don't need to geek out on my hunches or whatever, unless there's something you really want to say, because I really want to talk about Black Women Thriving.
I was like, well, I hope it's only a positive evolution, because
Oh, I'm imagining it being like a jump, like it has to be an expansion because we can't really get any lower. Period.
Exactly.
And again, there's my optimism. Like, there's nowhere to go but up.
I hope.
I'm like crossing my fingers as I say that, right?
Yeah.
So, all the things that, you've been saying lead up to, one of the things that I love so much about your research and your work, and I want you to tell us about that, is that it's focused and centered on thriving.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just about how do we get by, because and I'm curious, like, where did that come from? Because I would assume it comes from, I'm looking at all these things. It's like, great. Now we're included. Fantastic. Like, but even inclusivity probably does not always translate into thriving. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It is probably, it's actually a bit more personal than that. So the reason that it's focused on thriving is because you build what you always wanted. You know how they say that about entrepreneurs, like you build that thing that you always wanted.
Yeah.
And at no point did anyone in my career when I was working for other organizations, and even as a business owner, ever ask me like, okay, but how can you thrive?
Yeah.
What is thriving? And so I had that question. Coupled with that question was, I am a Black woman. And so, you might be like, well, duh, of course here's what I know. I know that we like to say that we support Black women and we don't act on that. Like our commitment doesn't match our words. I think in the workplace, Black women have been overly placed into roles that are just basically that put them into further caretaking situations in the workplace. I also knew this, and this is probably the most I thought it would be provocative. I don't think it's as provocative anymore. I was like, we have been fed a bunch of bullshit that that said like, well, if you get all the pay raises and you move up the ladder, you will feel like you're thriving. And that shit is not true. Now, you should get all the raises. You should move up the ladder. And one of the things that I'm going to give you a little insight into the research, like one little teeny tiny finding, which is that when asked, you have the title, you have the money. Do you feel like you're thriving? The answer is no. Because and I may have gone off on your question, so I'm going to just finish this thought. Because we don't have an idea about what it looks like to thrive in the workplace.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? Black women get to deserve to thrive. And we're going to offer the organizational workforce a definition of what that means. We have the definition in general, right? Like I can look up thrive and be like, according to dictionary.com. We have that, but in context of the Black women's work experience, that's what we're trying to do. Or that we're planning on doing. I shouldn't say try, because we have the data now.
Okay, so there's data. What is the vision? What are you doing with the data? I'm so excited about this.
Well, it's, I'm in the thick of it right now. So right now we're trying to write a report. But the point is, so one, we want to do a publication that outlines sort of like what is a thriving workplace for Black women? What are the characteristics of it? What would you have in place? And so we want to release this publication so that we are like sort of putting that like benchmark on this, whatever this is, ruler, fine, whatever, that we're saying this is the benchmark. We have it. And then the point is to say to companies, organizations, do you have all these things? Because we have 1,500 Black women. Actually, once we did all the data, 1,200 Black women, once we scrubbed it all, right? We have 1,200 Black women who said, these are the things that are important. Do you have these? Because If you don't, this is what you need to work on. So it answers from my vantage point, it answers the question, like when we talk about inclusion. I had a friend reflect this back to me. She goes, we talk about inclusion, but we never actually ask the people who you're trying to include what they want. This research has asked that question. And now we can like say, we can place more, I'm not even going to be gentle about this. We can place more pressure on organizations to say, this is what you need to do. And what I think, hopefully, is the differentiator is that Black Womxn Thriving is not asking Black women to do more. Like I am allergic.
Amen.
I am angrily against, like vehemently, hill I'm going to die on, against saying to Black women, well, you have to go and become more resilient. You have to practice more grit. You have to be more, we're not, I mean, we will mention it, but I am absolutely against setting in this publication to say, Black women, you do more. That's not the point.
Yeah.
I hope that was helpful.
Super helpful. Well, it's important, and again, so our listenership is, all different types of people. And of course, there's probably Black women listening being like, thank you, Ericka, right? And then there's people who I'm sure work in organizations at whatever level being like, damn, I never thought about that, And so I'm certain it's landing for however it needs to land. Are you able to share it all? And if it's not, that's totally cool. Were there things that were like super obvious? You were like, yes, of course, I expected this. And then was anything surprising? Were you like, was not expecting to see that in the data?
Yes.
It's okay if you can't. Not a researcher, so I don't know how this works. If you're like, can't tell you yet, but stay tuned.
That's probably yes. There were things that we saw that we were surprised by. There were other things, and yeah, I'm not actually really going to tell you all of that.
That's okay.
But there are other things that we were like, what I will say is that I'm not a psychologist, or I study human behavior as it pertains to being a facilitator, right?
Yeah.
So whoever studies human behavior as their job, this is what I noticed. I noticed that I think there was a distinction in the answers that really led us to be like, these two stories don't fit together.
Right.
Like we've seen some things in the data where things that we thought that Black women would be overly pessimistic about, they were very optimistic about. And we were like, wait, what? And things that we thought that they would be optimistic about, that they're like, hell no. And we're like, huh? So there's a lot of like actually kind of just as Black women, because I should say this. The other thing is that as much as possible, every front-facing part of this is led by Black women. So like the research team is Black women, the facilitators are Black women, we like to say like it is being done by us for us, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're like, when we look at these results, we're not actually unbiased. Like we're not impartial. Like I'm looking at this going, that does not reflect my experience as a Black woman. Why did you say that?
Well, so I was actually going to ask you about this, and then I know we're coming up on our time, but the saying like no group of people is a monolith, I find to always be, because I am rather obsessed with nuance and context. So I'm not a researcher, but I'm always like, oh, well, was the stuff that was like dissenting from what you were expecting? Was there a correlation to like what did those people have in common from that? I'm not going to geek out. I won't ask those things unless you want to.
Well, I mean, you can geek out so what all right, without going too much of a nerd out here, but I'm going to just say it. Like, so what I've just shared with you is what we've seen in the aggregate.
Okay.
But a lot of times in in research, from what I know, and I'm actually working with people like this is their field of research,
Yeah.
is like, okay, so the aggregate may say this, but then when you disaggregate the data and you see the component parts of like, well, how did we get to 56% of people saying X, right? Then once you get that disaggregated data, you are able to see like, okay, well, maybe it was actually like working women in higher academia who are married and who and we're like, oh, okay, so we can make this statement.
Yep.
And it helps to provide that nuance. And so that is important as well, because it's like where there are these areas where we were surprised, part of what we're now having to do is like go and disaggregate that data to be like, what sum makes up these parts? Like what sum makes up this whole? What parts make up this whole?
Yes.
And so that's sort of interesting and fun because I care about that, because you're right.
Yeah.
There are places where we can be like overwhelmingly,
yes.
monolithically, our sample size said this. And then there's a whole bunch of other parts where we're like, okay, well, overall it said this, but like, and it's not true for X and da 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 da. And so
I think that's so, I love that. You know, I'm always so fascinated by, you know, you could say something and, you know, get such an array of responses from this, like, I'm putting this in air quotes for people who are listening, like the same type of person, you know, some people will be like thanking you. Some people will be like, fuck you. It's like, well, we have no way, but this is what I wish I almost was a researcher, because I love knowing more about people. Like, what is it? What are the correlations? I would just like, I can't to actually go through it myself. I'm like, I want to hear about it. Can't wait to hear it. Can't wait to read the report, but I don't want to do that shit.
But you know what? And that is wonderful, because we need people who are like, let me take this report and I can make meaning. I can act upon it. Like, I don't want to just, you know, one of the things that there's a lot of things that we're trying to sort of hold in this report. And one of them is it has to be actionable. Like, it is not in that, like, I didn't raise money. I'm not continuing to try and raise money for something to be like, oh, it's nice they did this report. I'm like, no. This is action. Like, I'm just trying to give you numbers so that instead of being like, we don't know what Black women, no, I'm going to tell you what Black women have said.
But we don't, well, here it is. Actually.
And it's not just some narrative. Like, I talked to 3 people. No.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Can I wanted to share with you one of the unexpected just phenomena. It's like to me, it's a phenomena that happened.
Yeah.
And I think it ties into your work and healing. And so as we, you know, we're following a very standard research process according to my research partner. And so it's like, you know, we did a study, right? And then we did focus groups. And so we're taking the 2 of those and we're putting them together. And, you know, we're trying to find, you know, we're going to have results. And generally that is a very non-emotional, dispassionate practice. What happened with Black Womxn Thriving is that when we put the survey out and people started taking the survey, I got emails from Black women who were like, thank you. Thank you for this. I didn't even know I was feeling some of these things. I didn't know that I cared about, I mean, like that like this was causing me issue. Thank you. No one has asked me these questions before. It's like one of the things we heard is like, were you in my head when you wrote this?
Yeah.
And so people don't thank people for taking a survey. But what that said to me is like, number one, we did something right.
Yeah.
And that's lovely, and it feeds my ego. But the other thing is that it spoke to the fact that Black women aren't asked what do you need?
Right.
The relationship is always different. I need this from you. It is extractive. And that is also one of the, when I went on my tirade, like I'm vehemently allergic and against asking, this is why. Yeah. We will not be extractive with Black Womxn Thriving, of Black women. So then go to the focus groups. So again, very dispassionate, unemotional, people might have emotional feelings in them. These people, these lovely Black women with necks are in these groups like, how do we stay in touch?
Oh.
I thank you so much. I am excited for this research. Again, my little ego heart, very happy. But also I'm like, there is speaking of there's an otherworldly presence here that we did not purposely create. Like we didn't build the architecture for it. But what I am very aware of is bearing witness to it. Like I just want to bear witness to it, and I want to respect it.
I love this so much. And what it feels like is this is bridging people out of survival, right? Because the fact that people never thought about it is because who has the time? Who even has the moment? Whose mind even goes to a place where nobody has ever asked them before, because why would anyone? You know what I mean? Like, and then now, like, from the healing perspective, I'm like loving them. I'm almost crying because I'm super emotional, but it's like,
I'm almost crying.
What is like, what I could just like sense what, like the little sparks, the seeds that got planted, the opening for people around what they actually deserve. And when you were saying, you said like, who says thank you for taking a survey? I'm like, they weren't thanking you for taking the survey. They were thanking you for seeing them, right?
Yeah.
For like acknowledging and even knowing or having a hunch around what their freaking needs would be. I don't need to tell you about your own people, but I'm like, oh, I love it so much. That's why I was so excited. Yeah. I remember screaming when I saw that Adrienne Marie Brown shared it. I was like, ah.
Oh, you mean, wait, Roxane Gay or Adrienne? No.
Oh, no. Was it Roxane Gay?
It was Roxane Gay.
Did they both share it?
I don't know that Adrienne Marie Brown shared it.
Oh, I thought I saw.
Maybe. I don't know.
I just saw it getting shared everywhere.
I'm such a Roxane Gay fan. Yeah, but go ahead.
She's amazing. I was just so happy and excited.
Well, it's so funny because it was like the glee felt around the land, because so many people were like, I was screaming and crying for you. I was so excited. And I was like, thank you. I mean, just know that I had a hangover the next day. It was not from drinking. I had an emotional hangover.
Yes.
Because I felt my own glee and your glee too. And it was glee. Yeah. And I was like, who cares about work? Yeah. Roxane Gay loves me. Okay, she doesn't love, like, we're not like, but she, like, it was just really nice.
I gotta look back at my text messages with Jess, though. I'm like almost positive I screenshotted an Adrienne Marie Brown post too. I really could be making it up, though.
I mean, if you did, I love it.
Oh man, thank you so much for sharing all this. And everyone listening, like, if this touches you, if this is important to you, this is like, you now feel like passionate and excited. If you're in the bubble of glee that we were just talking about, like, go follow Ericka. It's Diva Hines on Instagram. We're going to put links, Every Level Leadership, Black Womxn Thriving. You could buy swag in their store. Like, we'll put links to everything in the show notes. So you can just support and like stay abreast. I'm like such a 7th grader. I can't say that word without kind of being like, stay abreast of what's going on with the research. I literally can't wait for the report. I imagine it's probably going to take a while though, right?
It is, but I'm publicly, it will be released by the end of February.
Oh, amazing.
It is, I've said it if I say it in public to enough people,
we'll see.
Then I'm kind of on the hook for it.
Great.
Barring any major life or societal upheavals.
Well,
I know. Okay.
All right.
That I can't weather.
So much, Ericka. I'm so glad we actually even
Thank
virtually
you.
finally got to spend some time together. it's funny. I just, it feels weird to tell a human being like I'm a huge fan, but I really am. And I'm just so
thank
grateful for everything
you.
you're doing and excited to see how it all unfolds. So great to have you.
Oh, thank you. It was great to be here. I really appreciate this. Has been fun.
We'll see you later.